Let's face it, planning a game can be tedious, so I'm going to make it fun and efficient, and this is suitable for both solo devs and teams, and I'm going to cover both. It's really easy, so let's just start setting it up. The program that we'll be using is Trello, which is free. You don't even need to download it, you just sign up with your email. Once you've done that, you have a dashboard on the screen in front of you, and now you can create a board for your game. You can give it a title and a background. I like to choose one that fits the theme of my game. Now we have a blank page with the background, and on the left side you can see add a list. These are going to be the sections where you're splitting your game up into all the different sections. The most basic sections I would recommend to have is programming, art, sound, bugs, and story. But of course, this is customizable for you, and there's lots of other sections that you could add. I would also recommend making a to-do, doing, and done section just so you can keep track of what you're working on and what has been completed. Now we have these lists, we can start adding cards to them, and the cards are corresponding to the task related to the name of the list. For example, under programming, we can create a player movement card, and as you can see, we can move this card between all the sections if we wanted to. Now we can click edit on this card and a bunch of options come up. Here in this box, you can add a more detailed description describing what the card is about or what needs to be done. And you can also add some attachments relating to that card. Down here, you can even add a checklist breaking up the task into smaller parts. For example, for player movement, you might say create game object, get player input, etc. You can even add a cover image if you want to, if you're more visual. A way to incorporate your timeline is adding a due date to your task card. And this can really help you stick to your schedule. But one important thing I do want to show you how to set up properly is the labels. Here we can assign different colors to different tags. For example, if I want programming cards to be blue, then I would create a label called programming and select the blue color, and then I can assign it to any programming cards, just so visually I can see that all the blue cards are programming related. You can get really creative with these labels, and it allows you to quickly identify information about the card. A nice idea would be to add a task duration set of labels, so possibly for short cards you could add yellow, for more moderate length tasks you should add orange, and red are longer tasks. So that way, if you've only got time for a shorter task, you can see immediately which cards have yellow on it and you can just pick one. Now I've quickly just added some more cards so you can see what our projects might look like. Now specifically for team devs, there is an option to assign someone to a card. So if you have an artist on your board and you want to assign them to the artist cards, you can just go in and click their name and they will be assigned the card. Now, a really cool feature on Trello is the ability to automate tasks with your own rules. Now, this can be overwhelming because of all the possibilities, but I'm going to break it down and show you some really useful, easy ones to implement into your board. But first, I'm just really excited to share that I actually made the t-shirt that I'm wearing in this video, and I've added it recently to my Etsy shop. So if you're interested, go check it out, but let's get back to the video. So remember, we added the programming label to the programming task. We can automate that. So we can go to the rules section and add a new rule, and we can say when a card is added to programming, assign the programming label to that card. Now, if we go back to our board and create a new card under programming, we can see that it gives it the blue label that we created before automatically. Let's do one specific for teams. Let's say when a card is added under the art section, add the pink art label, but we already know how to do that. So we can go one step further and say assign X member to this card. So now the amazing thing is you don't have to go into all these artist cards and click on the artist and assign it manually. It will just do it all for you. And this can save you a lot of time and make it super efficient. And I do want to mention they do have some short tutorials under each section, so I would check them out if you are struggling a little. But now I'm going to move on to the schedule section. Here we can do a similar thing with the rules, but it's more related to the schedule. So let's make one for a team and say that every 2 weeks on a Thursday, add a card to the to-do list and call it planning meeting. Now, automatically every 2 weeks, you don't have to remember to put planning meeting on your to-do list. An example for a solo dev could be every Friday, add a fix bugs under the to-do list. Next, we have automation to do with the due date of cards. For example, if we want to identify which tasks on our whole board are urgent, we can then create a rule to say 2 days before a card is due, add the red urgent label to the card. And then you'll be able to instantly identify what is a priority. The next cool feature is the custom buttons. These are similar in the way that they will execute our specific commands, but by the press of a button. So let's make one called completed, which moves the card to the done list and also removes the due date. Now, if we go on to the card details, we can see there's a button that has appeared on the side, and we can just click completed and it will do the actions for us. We can also make board buttons. So an example of this would be creating a button which sorts the list by the due date. So if we've been adding different cards to this list and we just need a bit of organization, we can just do it at a click of a button. There is, of course, endless possibilities with these, but I hope I've given you a few that gets you started and helps make your planning more efficient. The last thing I want to mention is the Trello power-ups. These are basically app integrations that can add even more functionality to your board. One noteworthy power-up would be the GitHub integration. This might be more useful for teams, but it basically means you can track GitHub directly from your board. There is a page on Trello that goes into more detail about the GitHub integration, so I'd check that out if you're interested. I know that's a lot of information, but feel free to go back and rewatch parts, and I'll put the chapters into the description. But if you think I've missed something, please let me know in the comments, because it's always great to learn from each other. That's the basics of planning in Trello, and I hope that I've made it seem less of a laborious task and more of something that you'd look forward to, because planning is an integral part of game development, so might as well make it as fun and easy as possible. Before you go, don't miss my other video on the other tools that you need to make your first game, but other than that, I'll see you next time.